There is a reason you are here. Not a casual coincidence, not a lucky algorithm, a quiet, precise appointment between your attention and a possibility that has been waiting for you across a dozen invisible doors. You arrived because something in you remembered a pact made before memory. To wake, to recognize, to choose. The words on this screen are the echo of that pact. The title you came for hums like a secret key in the dark. Forbidden Thoth Codex. Choose the timeline where your observer effect unlocks infinite possibility. Feel the title settle in your bones. It is a map and a summons. Imagine for a moment that your life is a theater of light and shadow, and you, curiously, are both the audience and the stagehand. Every glance you take, every small motion of your inner gaze, collapses a filament of possibility into the shape you call real. That collapsing is not punishment, it is power. But power without awareness is habit. So many of your days have been quietly shaped by a familiar attention, a particular frequency you return to, again and again, because it feels known. This is the loop. This is the gently humming trap that keeps the same scenes replaying, the same songs repeating, the same small dramas insisting on encore. Now sense this. The universe is not indifferent to your noticing. It answers the quality of your gaze. When you lift your eyes with curiosity rather than fear, probability rearranges like dancers moving to new choreography. The stillness behind your noticing is the hinge. It is the place where timelines fold and open. Right here, right now, your observer effect is not theory. It is a living instrument. And within that instrument sits a choice as radical and tender as a sunrise. You may have felt the tug before, that tiny, insistent ache that something else is possible. Perhaps you've already glimpsed a different version of yourself in a dream, or in a conversation that felt like it belonged to another life. Those are not accidents. They are invitations from your higher attention breadcrumbs left by a future you who remembers the art of choosing timelines. The Forbidden Thoth Codex is not a book you read with eyes. It is a protocol you enact with attention. It asks you to become precise about where you rest your noticing, to refuse the autopilot and to hold, for a breath, a new probability until it gathers itself and becomes visible. Listen to the cadence of your breath now. In, out, in, out. Each inhalation draws in potential. Each exhalation allows the world to rearrange. This is your laboratory. This is the sacred observatory within your body. If you stay long enough in this space, something subtle begins to loosen. The old predictability surrenders, and a thin crack of light appears where a new script can be written. So receive this as a soft transmission meant for the part of you that still remembers how to choose. Allow the phrase Forbidden Thoth Codex to vibrate as an activation, not a mystery to solve, but a threshold to pass through. You will be led, step by tender step, into the mechanics and the poetry of how your observation becomes destiny. For now, hold this knowing. You were guided here because your attention matters. Your presence is the missing variable. In the next part, we will look together at the loop that has been playing on repeat, the pattern you were born to outgrow, and we will begin the gentle work of learning a new kind of seeing. You have felt it. That strange sensation of living the same script in different costumes. The names may change, the locations may shift, the years may move forward, but the essence repeats like an echo circling the walls of your mind. Relationships arrive with different faces yet carry the same heartbreak. Opportunities appear promising, yet collapse into familiar disappointments. Even the conversations you have with yourself feel recycled, like old lines whispered on a loop. This is not your imagination. It is not bad luck. It is not punishment. It is the observer loop. Quantum physicists speak of the collapse of the wave function. Every particle exists in a haze of possibility until it is observed. Your consciousness does the collapsing, but here is the catch. The mind tends to favor what it knows. Your nervous system, primed for survival, searches for the familiar because the familiar feels safe. And so, day after day, your gaze falls into the grooves of memory. You collapse the same probabilities into form, without even realizing you're doing it. Think of it like a cosmic jukebox. Infinite songs are waiting to be played, each one a potential reality vibrating with possibility. And yet, you keep pressing the same button, selecting the same track. You know every beat, every lyric. Sometimes you sing along without noticing you are repeating yesterday's tune. The jukebox doesn't complain. It simply plays what you ask for. The loop is subtle. It shows up in how time feels to you. Have you noticed how certain days drag endlessly, while others vanish in a blur? That distortion is a signature of the loop. It feels like you are moving forward, but in truth, you are pacing in place, tracing the outline of old timelines, mistaking movement for progress. You wake up each morning expecting something new, but your attention immediately seeks what is known, the same thoughts, the same emotions, the same worries. Your consciousness is like a compass locked to one direction, no matter how much you long for another horizon. This is why certain synchronicities feel bittersweet. A flash of déjà vu, a dream that seems to repeat itself, a phrase you have heard in another conversation years before. These are not accidents. They are signals, temporal echoes, evidence that your observer effect has folded the same pages of reality more than once. The loop does not only live in your mind, it weaves itself into your body. Notice how your breath shortens under stress in the same way it did years ago. Observe how certain memories are stored in your muscles, replaying themselves in posture, in gestures, in tone. Your cells are listening to your observation, repeating the same biochemical signals because they are fed the same attention. You live the same day not because the universe is cruel, but because your own observer function has become predictable. And yet here is the paradox: this predictability is not a prison. It is a clue. It is evidence that you are powerful enough to write reality on repeat. The loop reveals the potency of your attention. If your gaze can sustain a repeating pattern, then it can also birth a new one. The question is not whether you can collapse reality, but whether you will dare to collapse something unfamiliar, something uncharted, something luminous. But first, you must see the loop clearly. The Codex whispers, recognition is liberation. Ask yourself, how many times have I seen this pattern appear with different actors? How many seasons of my life have carried the same underlying plot? What phrases escape my lips again and again as if they were programmed? When you look closely, you will see the recursive rhythm. It is not there to shame you. It is there to wake you. The Thoth Codex speaks of the mirror cycle, the repetition of experience, until consciousness learns to turn its gaze away from habit and toward possibility. You are not cursed. You are not broken. You are simply standing in a hall of mirrors, mistaking reflection for truth. Every reflection is real, yes, but only because you keep facing the same angle. The hall contains other mirrors, other views, other worlds, but the loop insists, keep looking here, keep repeating this, keep rehearsing the known. Do you feel the weight of that recognition? Let it not be despair. Let it be evidence of your strength. If you can unconsciously summon repetition, you can consciously summon revolution. The loop shows you your raw power. It is like pressing your finger into wet clay over and over, forming the same imprint. The clay is not the problem. The imprint is not eternal. The issue is only that your finger has forgotten how to move. And so, tonight, as you hear these words, you are being asked to pause, not to break the loop by force, but to see it in its entirety. You cannot change what you cannot name. You cannot step out of a circle until you recognize you are walking in one. Recognition loosens the gravity of the loop. Awareness dissolves the glue. You are not meant to wander forever in these recursive timelines. You are meant to remember the role of your observer effect and to choose with precision. You are not condemned to the scratched record. You are destined to find the moment when the stylus lifts and a new song begins. And that moment begins with the next truth. Science itself has been pointing to the poetry of this for decades. Quantum mechanics is not dry mathematics. It is symbolic scripture written in the language of probability. In the next breath, in the next part, We will enter the marriage of physics and metaphor, the sacred bridge, where science meets symbolism, and you will see how your observer effect has always been a secret codex, waiting for you to read it. You have seen the loop. You have felt its echo in your bones, its repetition in your breath. Now it is time to lift the veil and see how science itself has been whispering this truth all along, a truth so poetic that it borders on myth, yet so exact it builds the foundation of quantum physics. The observer effect. Perhaps you have heard the phrase before, like a riddle passed between mystics and scientists. At its core it says this: the act of observing changes the thing observed. But this is not only about photons dancing through slits of light in a laboratory. It is not just about wave functions collapsing into measurable form. It is about you. Your gaze is the experiment. Your life is the laboratory. When the double-slit experiment revealed that particles behave as waves until observed, a secret was exposed. Reality is not fixed until consciousness arrives. Until the gaze meets the field, infinite probability hums in silence. And the moment you look, possibility folds into certainty, just as ink bleeds into paper. But here is the mystery. Physicists describe this with equations, while ancient sages described it with symbols. The Egyptians, who honored Thoth, the god of wisdom, the keeper of secret scrolls, spoke of the book of life, where every possible outcome exists. They were not speaking in metaphor. They were pointing to the same truth quantum mechanics later rediscovered. Reality is written in probability, and your attention is the hand that turns the page. Picture the wave function as a vast, shimmering ocean. Each wave is a potential reality, a storyline, a self you could become. Until you gaze upon it, the wave remains fluid, singing countless songs at once. But your observer effect, your unique signature of attention, pulls one wave out of the sea, crystallizing it into form. In that moment, the poetry of physics becomes the poetry of your life. You collapse infinite possibility into the tangible now. Think of your emotions as frequency, your thoughts as tuning forks, your breath as the metronome. Each inner state influences the kind of wave your observation collapses. This is why joy brings synchronicities that feel like miracles, while fear tends to attract repetitions that feel like prisons. The wave listens not only to what you see, but to how you see it. The Forbidden Thoth Codex is not a literal manuscript hidden in some forgotten temple. It is encoded in the very mechanics of observation. To open, it is to understand that your life is not a pre-written script, but an ever-shifting probability field. The Codex reveals, you are both the reader and the writer. Science gives us the formula. Symbolism gives us the soul. Together, they explain why synchronicities feel magical yet logical, why déjà vu is not mere coincidence, but evidence of parallel timelines brushing against one another. The physicist tells you reality is probability. The mystic tells you reality is dream. The Codex tells you both are true. Let us weave this with imagery. Imagine you are standing before a kaleidoscope. Each turn of the lens rearranges the fragments of colored glass into a new pattern. The glass itself does not change, only the angle of your gaze does. Reality works the same way. The raw matter of your life, the people, the events, the settings, these are the glass. But the pattern, the picture, the meaning, these are determined by your attention, by how you choose to turn the lens. Now consider time. To most, time feels like a river carrying them forward. But to the quantum aware, time is a field, more like a garden where every flower blooms at once. Your observer effect is the gardener's hand, choosing which flower to notice, which path to walk. The loop we spoke of before is simply the habit of walking the same trail through the garden again and again. Science tells you time is relative. Symbolism tells you time is illusion. Both whisper, you can step off the path. The Codex frames this in language of destiny. It says, your observer effect is the gatekeeper of timelines. Each choice of attention is not small, it is cosmic. Each moment of awareness is not private, it is creative. This is why your synchronicities sometimes feel like messages from the universe. They are. They are feedback loops from the field, showing you what your gaze has summoned. If you pause here, you may notice the paradox. You are not merely observing reality, you are co-authoring it. You are not only watching the play unfold, you are feeding the stage with light. Science names it quantum decoherence. Symbolism names it the weaving of fate. You live at the meeting point where both languages converge, and so the Codex urges you. Stop believing you are a passive character wandering through a fixed story. Recognize that the symbols you encounter are not random. The owl at your window, the phrase repeated by a stranger, the dream that feels like memory, these are signals from the field, echoes of your observer effect, folding infinite potential into visible signs. The great secret is this: science and symbolism are not opposites. They are two mirrors reflecting the same truth. One speaks to your mind, the other to your soul. And when both are seen together, a doorway opens. That doorway is awareness, the key to stepping out of the loop and into infinite possibility. But the Codex does not stop at explanation. It asks you to feel this truth in your bones, to breathe it into your cells, to recognize that your attention is not merely looking, it is sculpting. And now, in the next breath, we must turn toward you more deeply. For this is not only a story of physics or symbols, this is a story of your personal resonance, your lived experience. And so, in the next part, I will ask you the questions your soul has been waiting to be asked, questions that will stir recognition, that will reveal how deeply you already know this truth, and how ready you are to live it. Pause here, breathe in, breathe out. Let the rhythm of your breath be the bridge between the symbols we have explored and the pulse of your own lived experience. This is no longer about abstract science or mystical metaphors. This is about you. The Codex opens not in the libraries of Egypt, but in the chamber of your chest, where your attention meets your heartbeat. So let me ask you, how many mornings have you awakened and felt the weight of a story you didn't remember writing? The thoughts arrive before the sunlight even touches your skin. I know how this day will go. I know what awaits me. I know the limits. And the loop begins before your feet meet the floor. Haven't you wondered why the first breath of the day can feel heavier than it should? As though time itself were asking you to repeat rather than create. How many times have you stood in conversation, and suddenly, a sentence arrives with eerie familiarity? Not just the words, but the exact intonation, the subtle tilt of the head, the déjà vu that makes you wonder, haven't I been here before? Haven't I spoken this very phrase in another timeline? What do you feel in those moments? Is it fear? Is it wonder? Or is it a quiet ache, a knowing that you are brushing against the edges of your own observer loop? When you look at your relationships, can you see the patterns like threads woven through them? Different faces, same themes, the same misunderstandings, the same disappointments, the same longing to be seen, met, and fully known. Doesn't it feel as if you've been rehearsing the same play with different actors, never quite changing the script? And if so, isn't it possible that you're the director who forgot you're allowed to write new lines? Think about time. Do you notice how sometimes the hours crawl, and other times entire weeks vanish, as if swallowed by a void? Haven't you sensed that time is not flowing evenly but bending itself around your awareness? Doesn't it feel at times as though the clock is conspiring with your consciousness, replaying certain hours like reruns and fast-forwarding through others? And when you sense this distortion, do you ever ask yourself, what part of me is scripting time in this way? Consider your body. Isn't it true that your chest tightens in the same way when certain worries return? That your stomach knots with familiar patterns of stress, as if your cells have memorized the loop just as much as your mind has? Have you noticed how quickly your breath can shorten at the slightest echo of an old fear? And doesn't this tell you that your observer effect isn't only collapsing reality around you, but also shaping the very chemistry inside you? And what about the whispers of synchronicity? Haven't you felt the universe tap you on the shoulder with signs too precise to ignore? The song that plays with perfect timing, the number that repeats until it feels alive, the stranger who delivers the exact phrase you needed to hear. Do you really believe these are random? Or does some deeper part of you know they are reflections of your own observer field? Feedback loops showing you the pattern you are weaving with your gaze. Let me ask something even deeper. Have you ever felt the strange loneliness of being aware of all this, of seeing the loop, sensing the possibilities, noticing the distortions while those around you carry on, as if reality is solid and unchangeable? Do you sometimes feel like a traveler from another dimension, speaking a language few understand, yearning for others who can feel what you feel? And isn't that precisely why you found this message? Because your field has been calling out for resonance, for someone to articulate what you already knew in silence? If you've ever looked at your life and whispered to yourself, "I know there's more than this," what do you think was speaking? Was it your ego? Or was it the future self you haven't yet embodied, reaching back through probability to remind you of the infinite? Haven't you sensed that the version of you who already broke the loop is watching, guiding, leaving breadcrumbs of recognition? And finally, let me ask you this. If you could choose truly, choose which version of reality to collapse into form, what would it feel like to live there? Not what would it look like, not what would it give you, but what would it feel like in your chest, in your breath, in your soul? Can you taste that possibility for a moment? Can you sense it vibrating at the edges of your awareness, waiting for you to claim it? These questions are not meant to leave you unsettled. They are meant to awaken the resonance of recognition. You are not being told anything new. You are being reminded of what you already know but have forgotten to trust. Every ache of déjà vu, every pattern you've noticed, every strange bending of time has been your higher self whispering, "See, notice, remember, you are the one collapsing this reality." And so, in this moment, the Codex is no longer hidden. It speaks through your own experience. It invites you not to escape your loop through force, but to see it with such clarity that you cannot be deceived by it anymore. The questions are the key. Each one cracks the shell of repetition. Each one allows light to enter the circle. But recognition alone is not enough. To step beyond the loop, you must shift the quality of your observation. You must learn the art of coherence. Not effort, not strain, but alignment of attention, intention, and presence. That is where the Codex leads us next. In the coming part, you will see the hidden truth. That liberation is not about trying harder, but about seeing differently. The solution is not more effort, but a new quality of attention. You have felt the weight of the loop. You have seen how repetition threads itself into your thoughts, your body, even your sense of time. You have answered the silent questions within yourself, recognizing the patterns and the ache for something new. Now, the Codex turns the page. This is the threshold moment where recognition becomes transformation. Here is the truth most seekers miss. Liberation does not come from effort. You cannot force your way out of the loop with willpower. The more you push, the more you tighten the knot. You've tried, haven't you? You've worked harder on your manifestations. You've meditated with more discipline. You've searched for the right affirmation, the right ritual, the right book, the right teaching. And yet, the loop remained. Why? Because effort still places you in the same mode of observation, the needy gaze that insists, "I must fix this. I must change this. I must escape." That very insistence feeds the loop. The Codex reveals a paradox. You don't escape the loop by doing more. You dissolve it by shifting the quality of your attention. This is the secret hidden between the lines of both science and spirituality. Attention itself is the key, not the content of your thoughts, not the intensity of your desire, but the coherence of your awareness. Coherence means that your mind, your heart, your body, and your breath are singing the same frequency. Imagine a choir where every voice sings a different song, chaotic, dissonant, exhausting. That is the scattered observation of a consciousness trapped in the loop. Now imagine that same choir tuning into a single note, every voice aligned. The sound is powerful, clear, transformative. That is coherent observation. And the quantum field responds instantly to coherence. Think about it. When you are aligned, when your thoughts, emotions, and energy vibrate in harmony, haven't you noticed how reality flows differently? The right people appear. Synchronicities multiply. Time feels spacious. This is not coincidence. This is the field bending to coherence. The Codex teaches that the observer effect is not about willpower, but about resonance. The question is not, what am I looking at? The question is, from what state am I looking? Your gaze, colored by fear or joy, coherence or fragmentation, collapses different timelines. Fearful attention creates repetition. Coherent attention births possibility. So let me guide you into this recognition. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel your breath. Feel your chest rise and fall. Sense the beat of your heart beneath your palm if you place your hand there. In this stillness, ask yourself, where is my attention resting? Is it scattered across regrets and worries? Or is it here, in this breath, in this moment, in this presence? Notice the difference. When your awareness is scattered, the loop tightens. When your awareness is coherent, the field opens. The Codex whispers, what you observe matters less than the state from which you observe it. This is the hidden law. People try to fix their lives by changing the scenery, altering the characters, forcing the script. But the scenery only reflects the coherence of the observer. The field responds not to your struggle, but to your song. Perhaps you've experienced glimpses of this. Those days when you stopped fighting and simply allowed yourself to be, when a strange peace washed over you and everything seemed to fall into place without effort. Haven't you wondered why those moments felt so different, so magical? It was coherence. It was your observer effect vibrating in alignment. This is why spiritual traditions speak of surrender, presence, or grace. They are all different names for the same shift, from fragmented observation to coherent observation. Science might call it wave alignment. Mystics call it divine attunement. The Codex calls it the unlocking of infinite possibility. Here is the invitation. Stop trying to break the loop with more effort. Instead, soften into coherence. When your attention, breath, and being align, the loop cannot hold. It dissolves like mist in sunlight. The repetition fades, and new timelines become visible. And yes, the ego will resist this. The ego thrives on effort, on doing, on striving. It whispers, if you stop trying, nothing will change. But that is the great lie. Change comes not from strain, but from resonance. Coherence is effortless because it is natural. Your awareness longs to rest in it. So what does this mean for you, right now, in this moment? It means that the first step out of the loop is not action, but attention. It means that your greatest tool is not control, but coherence. It means that the Codex does not ask you to become something new, but to remember how to rest in the unified state that has always been your essence. And here is where your role deepens. The Codex is not just an inner manual, it is also a call to community. When you act from coherence, your energy ripples into the collective field. But before we explore the power of the collective, there is one more step, the sacred ritual of commitment. The Codex reframes even your simplest actions like comment, share, subscribe as energetic acts, as signals to your own field and to the network of awakening souls. In the next part, we will explore this ritual. You will see how what seems like small actions in this digital world are, in truth, sacred agreements in the quantum world. You will learn how every click, every word, every act of engagement becomes a declaration to the universe. I am choosing coherence. I am choosing awakening. I am choosing a new timeline. Pause for a moment and let this idea settle. Every action you take is not small. Every gesture, every click, every word carries an energetic signature. You've been taught to think of digital engagement as trivial, liking a video, leaving a comment, subscribing to a channel. But the Codex reveals something deeper. These are not idle moves. They are micro-rituals, quantum signals. Each one is an imprint in the field, declaring your coherence, anchoring your choice of timeline. Think of it like this. When you press the like button, you are not simply agreeing with content. You are collapsing a probability wave. You are saying to your cells, yes, this is the frequency I align with. Yes, this is the field I am anchoring into my reality. That single tap on your screen becomes a sigil, a sacred symbol of intention. Your body feels it, your timeline hears it. When you leave a comment, it is not only words typed into a box, it is a declaration. The Codex teaches that language is one of the oldest technologies of creation. Every letter carries vibration. When you write something, even something simple like, I choose coherence, you are sending out a frequency into the collective network. Your statement does not vanish into the void. It reverberates, entangles, amplifies. Others read it, feel it, and recognize their own truth reflected back. The field strengthens. Sharing is not merely social media etiquette. It is energetic service. It is you saying, this resonance is not mine alone. I will be a node, a transmitter, a bridge. When you share, you are weaving the morphic field tighter, inviting other souls who are ready to awaken into coherence. The Codex frames this as becoming a beacon. Just as you were guided here, your act of sharing becomes the lantern for another. And subscribing? Subscribing is devotion. It is not just clicking a bell for notifications. It is aligning your energy to a frequency wave. It is telling your higher self, keep me tethered to this stream. Keep me within this current of awakening. Keep my field attuned to this resonance. Subscription is an act of remembrance, a vow to return to the sacred fire until it burns within you. Does this sound too mystical for such ordinary actions? That's because the world has trained you to forget the power of ritual. Ancient temples were filled with simple gestures, lighting candles, chanting words, pressing palms together. The gestures themselves were not magical. The intention behind them was. The Codex reveals that in the digital age, our temples are built through frequencies and our rituals happen through screens. The energy is the same. The mechanics are unchanged. What matters is the state of consciousness from which you act. So consider this transmission itself a sacred space. Every time you interact here, you are not performing empty engagement. You are building coherence. You are strengthening your observer effect. You are weaving yourself into a network of awakening consciousness. Pause and feel this. Imagine thousands of other souls, scattered across the planet, pressing like at this very moment. Imagine their energy fields lighting up like constellations, each click becoming a star in a greater map. Picture comments flowing in, each one a mantra, each one a vibration, feeding the collective coherence. Imagine the act of subscribing not as tethering to a channel, but as tethering to a global field of awakening. Doesn't it feel different now? Doesn't it feel alive? The Codex whispers, treat every action as sacred. When you understand this, your life becomes ritual. Eating becomes ritual. Walking becomes ritual. Breathing becomes ritual. And yes, even the way you interact online becomes ritual. Each choice is a declaration. This is the frequency I feed. This is the timeline I strengthen. This is the song I choose to sing into the field. This is why you were guided here. Not just to listen passively, but to engage consciously. Engagement is embodiment. Action is anchoring. Without action, recognition drifts like a dream. With action, recognition becomes matter. So I ask you now, not as a creator asking for engagement, but as a guide inviting you into ritual. If these words resonate, let your like be more than a click. Let it be a pulse of agreement that tells the universe, yes, I see. Yes, I choose coherence. If your heart stirs, write a comment. It does not need to be elaborate. It could be as simple as, I am choosing a new timeline. In doing so, you inscribe your intention into the Codex itself, weaving your will into the collective script. If you feel the call, share this transmission, not because others must be persuaded, but because their souls are waiting for the reminder you now carry. Become the bridge, become the beacon, and if your spirit longs for consistency, subscribe. Let it be your way of saying, I will return to this frequency. I will continue to feed this resonance until coherence becomes my natural state. Every ritual strengthens the field. Every ritual opens the gate. Every ritual is a line in the Codex, written not with ink but with intention. But the Codex is not just about you. It is about us. It is about the network, the entanglement, the great web of awakening souls who are rising together. Your ritual becomes the seed of collective resonance. In the next part, we will step beyond the personal and into the collective. You will see how your shift in coherence is not yours alone, but humanity's. You will see how your awakening is the ignition of a larger fire, the fire of collective awakening. Feel the ripple your presence makes. When you breathe, you do not only move air through your lungs, you nudge an invisible tapestry that connects everyone. The Codex speaks of this tapestry as living substance, an entangled field of attention that mirrors, amplifies, and accelerates what a single coherent mind chooses. You are not an island. You are a node in a living network. Your coherence does not stop at your skin. It leaks, it resonates, it invites. Science gives this a name: entanglement. Two particles, once correlated, remain correlated no matter the distance between them. Change one, and the other shifts. The mystics called it soul-knowing. The Codex calls it the protocol of collective awakening. You begin to sense how small acts, a calm breath, a coherent intention, a simple declaration echo into the field and tilt probabilities for others. This is not speculative metaphysics. It is practical entanglement applied to human hearts. Imagine a lake at dawn. Your personal awakening is the pebble you drop into the water. At first, the ripples are local concentric circles around where you stood. But those ripples meet other ripples, someone else's pebble, another breath, a shared mantra, a comment that reads like an invocation. Where the ripples intersect, the water's surface rearranges. Patterns emerge that never would have formed if each pebble had fallen alone. Collective coherence arises in those crossings. You are a pebble, and your pebble matters. This is where morphic resonance enters the story. Think of it as habit on a planetary scale. When a form of knowing is repeated often enough, it becomes easier for the field to instantiate that pattern. One coherent mind lifts a stone. Many coherent minds lift mountains. You are part of a tide that shifts the habitual grooves of humanity. Your single act of alignment becomes a template that others unconsciously reference. The Codex does not ask you to convert the world. It asks you to stabilize a frequency so persuasive that the field naturally begins to favor it. Now picture an invisible choir of awakened people, synchronized not by doctrine, but by sensation, by the shared experience of inner coherence. They are scattered across time zones, languages, and lives, yet they hum the same note. When enough voices sync, the note becomes audible on a planetary scale. New norms, new possibilities, new infrastructures of being begin to appear. The social contracts that once evolved slowly now accelerate. Systems reorganize around the presence of coherent human attention. This is how culture mutates from fear-based survival to possibility-based creation. You might wonder, how fast can this field change? Faster than you expect. It moves on thresholds. When a critical mass of coherence is reached in a local web, a community, a workplace, a city block, the probabilities near that web suddenly favor better outcomes. Doors open, synchronicities multiply, ideas that were previously fringe become mainstream. The Codex calls these moments phase cascades, when enough aligned observers cause a phase transition in the probability field, and what was impossible becomes ordinary. This is not a call for grandiosity. It is an encouragement toward faithful smallness. The work is not to be loud, it is to be steady. Coherence grows by repetition. Be the steady pulse. Tend your inner field. Honor the quiet acts that look insignificant but are, in fact, the warp and weft of the new world being woven. Comment when you mean it. Share when a transmission moves you. Show up when your presence is asked. These are the daily tendings of a gardener of reality. Notice also how your relationships begin to change as your coherence strengthens. People you love may wobble. Some may resist because their own observer loops feel threatened by your freedom. This is natural. Entanglement sometimes produces discomfort when one node shifts while another remains fixed. Hold compassion for both the shifting and the fixed. Your role is not to rescue, but to radiate possibility. The field does the rest. There are practical signs the collective field is responding. Patterns of innovation accelerate. Communities form around previously fringe skills. Languages shift to include new ways of describing reality. Children born into these fields show capacities of intuition and collaboration that surprise the previous generation. The Codex says humanity is learning a new grammar for existence, a grammar where coherence, not scarcity, becomes primary. You are helping write this grammar simply by being coherent. Now, take a breath and feel how your attention blends with others when you participate. When you leave that short comment, "I am choosing coherence," it is not a private act. It is a signal that threads through the web, touching others who need that particular frequency. You are not broadcasting to strangers. You are resonating with specific souls who have been waiting for your note to complete a chord. There will be friction. Old institutions built on fear and fragmentation will resist. That is expected. You are not asked to dismantle systems in one go. You are asked to become a living proof of different possibilities. The evidence you produce is not ideological. It is experiential. People will notice the calm in your voice, the ease in your decisions, the synchronistic flow around your days. They will ask questions. Some will join. Some will watch. The Codex compels you to be patient and persistent. Collective awakening is not an abstract ideal. It is a movement of attention, a reconfiguration of what the human field finds habitual. Your life becomes a node of possibility, and every small ritual you practice, a breath, a declaration, an aligned action online, helps stitch the new fabric. You are not waiting for permission. You are the permission. You are not alone in this. There is a growing chorus. There is a rising tide. There is a field that remembers how to be whole. In the next part, we will give shape to what individual embodiment looks like within this larger web. We will use a strong, visceral metaphor, a chrysalis, DNA reprogramming, a phase transition, to map the bodily and cellular sensations that accompany this shift. You will be guided into practices and imagery that help your cells read the new code. For now, hold this. Your awakening is a public service, a private devotion, and a planetary technology, all at once. Your coherence matters more than you think. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself inside a chrysalis. The old world your caterpillar self has dissolved. What once was structure is now liquid. If someone looked inside, they would not even see a recognizable form, just a soup of potential. That is where you are now. The loop has softened. The old reality is breaking down. You may not yet see the wings, but your DNA remembers them. The Codex calls this phase transition. Just as water, under pressure, transforms into steam, your consciousness, under the pressure of coherence, transforms into a new state. At first it feels chaotic. Old desires lose flavor. Familiar relationships wobble. Your body sends strange signals, sudden fatigue, surges of energy, dreams so vivid they feel more real than waking life. This is not malfunction. This is metamorphosis. Think of your DNA as an ancient library. Hidden within it are codes not yet expressed, potentials dormant until coherence awakens them. Scientists once called vast portions of DNA junk, but the Codex laughs at that word. It whispers, "These are the sleeping scrolls." When your attention shifts from fragmentation to alignment, these scrolls begin to unroll. Your cells read new instructions. Your chemistry changes. Abilities once thought mystical, heightened intuition, faster healing, spontaneous creativity, are simply the result of dormant instructions being activated. Now let's stretch the metaphor wider. Imagine an orchestra tuning its instruments. At first, the sound is discordant, scattered. noisy. That is the state of a consciousness in the loop, every instrument playing its own tune, no conductor in sight. But coherence enters, like a silent conductor raising a baton. The scattered notes converge into harmony. Suddenly, the orchestra is one body. The music carries you. This is how your body feels as it reprograms. What was once noise becomes symphony. The chrysalis stage is not comfortable. Ask any butterfly, the struggle is necessary. Pressure reorganizes the cells. The old tissues melt so that imaginal cells, the hidden architects of wings, can multiply. You have imaginal cells in your psyche. They are the visions you've glimpsed in dreams, the sudden sparks of intuition, the childlike wonder that still stirs in your heart. These imaginal cells carry the blueprint of your higher timeline. When the loop dissolves, they finally have room to grow. Consider your breath. In the loop, your breathing was shallow, hurried, mirroring survival. In the chrysalis, your breath becomes a bridge. Each inhalation draws possibility from the field. Each exhalation releases the density of repetition. If you pay attention, you can feel it. Your breath is reprogramming your body, teaching your cells a new rhythm. This is why practices like mindful breathing, chanting, or toning have always been central to awakening traditions. They are not just calming techniques, they are codes. They instruct your body to remember its coherence. Let's bring this even closer to your life. Have you noticed how certain foods suddenly repel you, while others call to you with unexpected intensity? How your sleep patterns shift, your dreams overflow, your emotions surge and release like waves. These are not random. They are signals of metamorphosis. Your body is recalibrating, syncing to a new probability field. Old patterns of nourishment, rest, and expression no longer fit the emerging frequency. The Codex urges you not to fight this stage. Do not cling to the familiar skin that is dissolving. Do not rush the wings before they are ready. The chrysalis stage is sacred because it is where the invisible work is done. The pressure you feel, emotional, physical, temporal, is phase transition pressure. It is the universe pushing your consciousness into a new state. Let us also speak of fire. Imagine a crucible where gold is refined. Impurities rise, bubbles form, the old structure collapses under heat. And yet, what emerges is pure, luminous, untarnished. Your life right now may feel like that crucible. Old wounds resurface, emotions boil, identities dissolve. It is not regression, it is refinement. The fire is not here to destroy you, it is here to reveal you. And then the butterfly. Wings unfurl, delicate yet powerful, coated with patterns unseen before. No caterpillar could imagine flight, yet the DNA carried the possibility all along. Likewise, no version of you trapped in the loop could imagine the ease, grace, and freedom that await. But the blueprint was always there. The Codex insists, you do not create wings, you reveal them. This embodied metaphor is not only poetic, it is practical. When the loop resurfaces, and it will try remember the chrysalis, say to yourself, I am in phase transition. I am dissolving the old. I am activating new instructions. When the pressure feels unbearable, remember the crucible. Whisper, this heat is refinement. This fire is alchemy. When fatigue weighs heavy, recall the butterfly. Affirm, wings are forming, even if I cannot yet see them. Every metaphor becomes a tool. Every image becomes a map. The Codex offers them not as fantasies, but as anchors to steady you through the turbulence of transformation. And here is the most luminous truth. You are not alone in this chrysalis. Humanity itself is inside one. Old systems are melting. Old identities of nations, economies, religions are dissolving. Pressure is everywhere. Division rises, not because the world is failing, but because the imaginal cells of a new earth are multiplying. Just as your DNA awakens hidden codes, humanity is awakening dormant potentials. We are all in phase transition together. In the next part, we will move into the closing promise. You will be reminded that your future self is not a dream, but a certainty. That the butterfly already exists, calling you forward. That the timeline of infinite possibility is not distant, but already humming beneath your feet. There is a promise encoded within you. It is older than memory, older than language, older than time itself. It is the promise that your future self, the version of you who has already broken the loop, already awakened coherence, already chosen infinite possibility, exists right now, waiting for you. This is the paradox the Codex reveals. Time is not a line. It is a field. Your future self is not later. It is here, vibrating just beyond the edge of your current frequency. And every coherent breath, every sacred ritual, every act of recognition brings you closer to alignment with that version of you who already knows how to fly. Pause here and feel into it. Imagine yourself walking through a corridor lined with mirrors. Some mirrors show the familiar reflection, the loop you've lived, the repetition you've rehearsed, but others shimmer strangely, revealing versions of you that feel impossibly radiant. One mirror shows you healed, another shows you creating with effortless joy, another shows you surrounded by souls who understand you perfectly. Which mirror do you linger on? Which reflection pulls you forward? That is your future self calling. The Codex insists, you do not have to build this version of you from scratch. You only need to align with it. Coherence is the bridge. Alignment is the doorway. Effort will not carry you there, but resonance will. Haven't you felt this before, those moments when life seemed to glide, when synchronicities cascaded, when everything clicked into place as if by design? That was your future self bleeding into the now, showing you what coherence feels like. Think of the times you whispered, "I know there's more than this." Who do you think planted that whisper? It was not just longing, it was memory. Your future self, living in the field of possibility, sent the echo back. That ache, that yearning, was guidance. Now listen to the rhythm of your breath again. Inhale, you draw from the infinite. Exhale, you collapse possibility into form. Each cycle is a rehearsal of creation. Your future self already breathes this way, already lives in the rhythm of coherence. You are not learning something new. You are remembering. The promise is this: you cannot miss your destiny. The butterfly cannot fail to become itself. The imaginal cells cannot forget their blueprint. Likewise, your highest timeline is not fragile. It is not distant. It is already here, encoded into the quantum field as a living probability. You are not chasing it. You are aligning with it. Feel how reassuring this island. The loop may feel strong, but it is only repetition. The future self is stronger because it is coherence. Every time you notice the loop and choose awareness, you shift toward that future. Every time you breathe consciously, you shift. Every time you choose presence over distraction, love over fear, coherence over fragmentation, you shift. The Codex assures you, the shifts add up, they accumulate, they compound. And then, suddenly, one day the phase transition. Just as water does not slowly become steam but changes all at once when the threshold is reached, your consciousness will not drip feed you transformation. It will leap, it will shift, it will quantum jump, and you will look back and realize the loop no longer defines you. But until that moment, the promise is enough. The promise is the anchor. The promise is the thread connecting you to the version of yourself who already lives in freedom. That self is not judging you. It is not impatient. It is smiling, waiting, whispering, "Keep going. You are closer than you think." And here is the most beautiful part. Your future self is not only waiting for you, it is guiding you. Every synchronicity, every déjà vu, every dream that feels like a message, these are breadcrumbs left by your future self. Haven't you noticed how certain insights arrive as if from nowhere, fully formed? That is you, from another timeline, sending guidance back. You are both the seeker and the guide. The Codex calls this the spiral of self. The lower self climbs, the higher self descends, and they meet in the middle here, In this now, you are not trying to become something other than what you are. You are meeting yourself. You are remembering yourself. So let the promise settle in your body. You cannot fail. You cannot be late. You cannot miss the timeline that is already encoded into your soul. The only choice is how gently, how quickly, how coherently you align with it. And now, a final preparation. The Codex ends not with explanation, but with declaration. Not with theory, but with ritual. You will soon be invited to seal this transmission, not just by hearing, but by speaking, not just by thinking, but by declaring. For the observer effect responds most powerfully when intention is crystallized into word. In the next and final part, we will enter the sacred declaration. Together, we will speak words that anchor this awakening, that weave you into the network of souls rising together, that close the Codex not with an ending, but with a beginning. Your future self is already there. All that remains is your yes. There is a reason you are here, and now you know it. You have walked through the loop. You have seen the science and the symbolism. You have felt the resonance of your own questions. You have touched the coherence waiting beneath your breath. You have remembered the promise of your future self. Now, the Codex asks for one final act. Not more effort, not more striving, but a declaration, a spoken, written, felt alignment that seals your awakening. Close your eyes and feel the field around you. It is alive, shimmering, listening. It does not care about your doubts, your history, your past failures. It only responds to coherence, to clarity, to declaration. This is why words have always been sacred. From the ancient chants of Egypt, to the mantras of the Himalayas, to the prayers whispered in silence, words are the instruments that collapse probability into form. And so we speak together now. Not as strangers scattered across a digital landscape, but as entangled nodes in a single awakening mind. Whisper with me. I am coherent with my highest timeline. Say it once, softly. Say it again. With breath. Say it a third time. With certainty. Feel the vibration leave your chest and ripple into the quantum field. Each repetition is not empty sound. It is command. It is alignment. It is the observer effect turned sacred. Now, anchor it deeper. Place your hand on your heart. Type it in the comments if you are called. Write it, not as social engagement, but as inscription in the Codex itself. Every time another soul sees your words, the resonance strengthens. Every time someone affirms alongside you, the morphic field grows. Together, we weave a new pattern. The Codex does not end here. It lives through you. Each like, each comment, each share, each subscription is not a task, it is a ritual. Each is a signal to the universe. I am awake. I am coherent. I am part of the collective shift. So declare it boldly. Seal it fully. Say to yourself, to your future self, to the field that holds us all, I am not bound by the loop. I am the observer choosing infinite possibility. I am the butterfly rising from the chrysalis. I am the fire that refines and the gold that emerges. I am coherent with my highest timeline. This is the sacred declaration. This is the closing of the Codex and the opening of your wings. The old cycle ends here. The new begins now. And as you step forward from this moment, remember, you are not alone. Thousands of others are declaring with you, weaving light across the planet. Each voice, each breath, each declaration is part of a single awakening song. The Codex is no longer forbidden. It is alive in you. So at Island,